So I know you're working on some really cool stuff right now, but first, for people who don't know who Adam Curry is, you've been doing broadcast and a lot of stuff for a long time. So let's hear your story if someone had never heard of who you are and what you do before.
Well, hopefully someone at least heard of me as MTV guy Adam Curry, if I'm lucky, although the people who remember me are getting older.
That's right. We got 20-somethings in the room tonight, so it's not the usual, exactly. My generation, I'm like, holy cow, it's that guy. I remember the first day of transmission, man. It's really interesting to see that now that, because of course music videos have become such a commodity. MTV actually made a very good business decision to go into long form programming, but something that we all shared together got lost, and it was an interesting time. It was maybe 15 years there, 20 years of really cool MTV. So today it's still nice to see, CEOs of companies, and they see me, and because of course I don't have the hair anymore. They kind of recognize me, and the tie comes loose, and then it's like, hey man, I got a Megadeth T-shirt under this. Take a look at it. So hopefully someone from that era will know me. But I started in broadcast when I was 15, building my own transmitter just for the neighborhood, and my mom would drive me around the block, see how far it would go. I grew up in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, which had a very odd broadcast world, all government-run, government-controlled. So I wound up on pirate radio stations. Eventually went off to study broadcasting in West Virginia. A couple of things wrong with that. One, I grew up in Amsterdam. West Virginia was quite a culture shock. Yeah. College itself, it's like, hey, everyone wants to smoke weed and drink a lot. And I'm like, this is no big deal. When I was 13 and looked 15, we did that. Yeah. So I left. And really, when I was 19, I went back to the Netherlands, and within a month, I had a gig on television, a music television program with artists performing live. And that was just a whole bunch. I mean, you create your own luck, but it's really, where preparation meets opportunity, I guess. That took me to 4 years on official government broadcast television. Half the country watched me because there were only 2 channels, and they were on from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Then MTV called. And they said, hey, you want to come work for us? And I'm like, where? Is it New York? I'm like, let me think. Yeah, okay. And that turned into 7.5 years of MTV, and I did a lot of radio, Z100 in New York. I had my own syndicated top 30 hit list, which was fun. And eventually wound up starting a company, which started off as On-Ramp, and later we took it public as Think New Ideas in '96. It's a little bit before the big .com boom, but we ran a profitable company and eventually sold it for $450 million to another publicly listed company. And I tried to retire in 1999, 2000. That didn't go so well. Of course, I went through all the great things. Hey, I know what I'm doing. I'll start a helicopter company. That didn't work out too well after 9/11. All kinds of dumb mistakes. And then around 2004, the iPod was there, and people looked at that as a music jukebox, and I went, radio receiver. I know how we can do this. And then with Dave Weiner, who had already started with RSS, we came up with the enclosure element, which became really the podcast part of the RSS feed. And then started another company against my better judgment. I actually vowed to never do it again, or at least not that way again. Ran that for, that was like 10 years, a long time. And eventually just kind of transitioned over to the podcast that I've been doing with John C. Dvorak, now literally we're in our 10th year. There it is, No Agenda, noagendashow.com. And that really became the entire job. And we've developed a number of interesting concepts. One of them is what we call the value for value model. We've never taken corporate advertising money. It's always been direct donations. But we also really involve our listeners, first of all, by addressing them as our producers and giving them the responsibility of making a great show. It's genius.
Because you can't really do all this stuff without producers, but we can't afford producers. So, we need to eat, but also people to make clips, to do artwork, to do all kinds of stuff for us. We have a lot of people who just give us information because they have standing knowledge. We have doctors, dentists, people who work at agencies all over the government. That's just been kind of what I've been doing until about a year ago, a lifelong quest. Lifelong, ever since we really started podcasting. I love the idea of everything being so self-contained, but I really also want to be able to run a proper radio broadcast off of a laptop. And the problem with computers up until pretty recently is you could just never get the zero latency
processing, so you can hear what's going on in your headphones. And it kicked off an industry, podcasting, with a very odd way of working, where people are doing all of that in post-production, which is extremely frustrating to me.
It's so time-consuming, it sucks.
It's time-consuming, and you get such a better flow when you have everything all sounding great in the beginning. I'm talking noise gates and compressor limiters. And so, of course, I've had stacks and racks and all kinds of stuff of gear, but never really quite portable, at least not in a zero latency sense of the word.
Right.
Until really about a year ago, when I was just kind of messing around with some digital signal processing chips. And I discovered that I think I could really fit all of this stuff into one chip, one DSP. It would be zero latency, real time. And you know what? Why don't we just rig it up the way podcasters need it? Yeah. You need 2 microphones at least, or a line. You need two audio devices, one for your computer, so you can get whatever you need out into your recording system, and a mix minus, which is what we use for Skype, so you can easily talk to a third person or multiple people via Skype without them hearing themselves echo back. And it sounds really trivial, but I can tell you, I've set up so many mix minus systems, and I can still mess it up.
Yep. No, and maybe for people who don't know what that is, the bottom line, what Adam's talking about right now, is he's figured out a way for virtually anyone to create a super high quality podcast with relatively minimal gear, this special black box that you've been working on.
Well, it's called the podcast studio. It's not really a black box, but it will be quite small, actually.
Yeah.
But so you bring up an excellent point, is that it's very, so the hardest part besides the gear is people don't typically have the right room. And there's always ambient noise, and we just don't have NPR-like studios to get that really amazing sound. However, when you use a noise gate properly configured, it can really sound that way, because and the way we set this up is the noise gate is so fast in and out, but so smooth, and it took a lot of time to really get those parameters right. And we give all of that. We give. In fact, my exact settings come with the system, and you can make your own, save them, obviously. And that is the idea, to make podcasts sound great and to save people a lot of time with not going through post-processing of their sound.
Right, and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear. So,
yes,
so like me, now it turns out that our mutual friend Gene, who you've been working with on this project, I've been itching. I'm like, is it there yet? Is it there yet? Is it there yet? When can I buy it? When can I buy it? When can I... So
right.
So what's the plan for releasing this, and where do people go to find out more?
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, as I said earlier, I really did not want to create a new company. I didn't want to go to venture capital to raise money. I don't want to raise money at all. I want to make a great product, and if people want to buy it, then I'd like to sell it to them.
Right.
So there's 2 other partners, Gene Tuliev, who, as you said, is a legitimate businssman.
30 years. Yeah, I've known him 30 years.
And there's Charlie Thompson, who is a retired chip designer. He worked last at Silicon Labs, and he's also a musician. So the fit is so perfect.
Yeah.
And so we said, why don't we develop this on our own dime, just get it all together, get our prototypes, and then we'll do a Kickstarter. And Gene actually has some experience with Kickstarter. I've always wanted to do, first of all, I've always wanted to do a hardware project. I've always done software or throwaway content. But now to actually do that with a Kickstarter, when we go into it, we're not saying, we're going to develop this. No, it'll be done. We want to place an order. And if there's enough interest, then we place an order. Everybody gets a great device, and then hopefully we can go on to do version 2. I already have a bunch of ideas, and I'm looking forward to what people find useful, and how they really what the box does for them, and we can make changes. We can also update it. You can download new firmware. So it's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone's like, well, we'll be done just about then. But I'm pretty sure that in May the Kickstarter will kick off, and really just. Because we're getting our website up and everything, and you'll be able to register for that. But if you really just follow me on Twitter at Adam Curry, that's where I'm continuously providing updates and sometimes some funny pictures of the process, which for me is really, the journey has been fantastic just to build this thing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty exciting. I talk to Gene frequently, and he's there's all kinds of new curveballs that get thrown at you, and hardware. You'd think it's getting easier with all the single chip systems that are out right now, the Pis and stuff like that. You'd think, you just strap on this and that, plug it together, and you got something magic. But you're doing some complex stuff
Yes, and you don't even realize. I didn't know any of this, but USB wasn't ever really designed for audio to start with, and then you find out that one USB hub doesn't exactly work like the other one, and then of course now you have to break that down to the chip level and stuff you're going to order from Taiwan.
Yeah.
And believe me, when you called up Taiwan and say, "Hey man, I want 5 chips," they're like, "Yeah, okay, no, well, who are you? Go away."
Yeah.
Because they got 5 million orders coming through, so it's been a phenomenal process. But I've always been convinced that this, and of course Kickstarter's proved this.
Yeah.
But I'm building this not to become a multimillionaire. It's doubtful that'll happen. But I wanted to build this. This is what we want, and it's been so frustrating that Behringer, Mackie, all great companies. None of them have ever done anything proper for podcasting. We've seen a lot of efforts, Tascam, nice try, but that looks like my first Sony, with all due respect.
Yeah.
That's not, we don't need to change our voice into a robot. That's not the features podcasters want.
Right.
So that's always been the mission, and it is my belief that this will show the power of a community with a common goal. That we can actually influence what gets made and what gets put into the marketplace.
Right on. So again, follow you on Twitter to keep up with the status and find out what the link is as soon as it's ready to go with Kickstarter. Yes. I know Gene's working on a lead capture system right now, and I'm actually going to poke him as soon as we get done with our call and see if there's something that can be done for the viewers right now. So here's my last question for you. I think
definitely we'd love to get people in early and get some benefits for them. Absolutely. We continue to be marketers, no matter what, good sound or not.
Yeah, no, it's true that. So let me ask you the last big question. So, you've been, in a way, you are a consummate entertainer just as much as a news maker and an interesting entrepreneur. Because again, I know you through Gene mostly, and obviously followed your career before, but you've built a successful, long-standing, No Agenda's been running how many years again?
We're in 10 years now.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So, and it's not only self-sustaining, you're making a living off of this without advertising, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So the direct question I have for you is, what are you most excited about right now when it comes to marketing and promoting and getting attention and engagement? In other words, what works best when you look at effort in engagement out, happy, excited, educated and entertained audience that sticks with you and loves you and keeps on coming back over and over again? What would you say is one of the elements of the secret sauce that you'd share?
Well, and I appreciate you said, I'm an entertainer, although I always hope that No Agenda really is a comedy show. I really hope that people, if you listen to the show, you have to laugh at least once, or please don't listen to it again. I think the combination of myself and John C. Dvorak, we make an outstanding product.
He is. I've followed him back from the Byte days. Okay. And
yes.
Before,
Very fortunate to be able to work with him, and I think he would say the same about me. And so somehow this has become just an outstanding product. You always need that. Or as John would say, it helps. What I've learned about myself over the years that I have a knack to build community. And that's really that really gets me off in the sense of, if you look at our No Agenda community, our producers, we can ask them to help us with anything, and they will do it because they know it's their responsibility. It's their, and we give them credits, all kinds of ways that we involve them. And sometimes it's just as much as, hey man, thanks for sending me that link on Twitter. Everybody wants to be recognized.
So it's acknowledgement, recognition that's public,
absolutely.
and clearly sincere too, because you are a total no bullshit guy. Sure.
Sincere and transparent. We give the numbers when people send us money. We thank them. We give them the amount we tell the people the amounts. It's a really interesting concept, and John and I have been working with a number of other podcasters. Jen Briney comes to mind with Congressional Dish, to get her on the same type of system with using your audience, turning them into producers, helping you with finances and everything else. And it really is it's a model that excites me over and over again, which I think is probably why I like the idea of Kickstarter and crowdfunding, for the very same reasons. Because we actually control it. You have no idea if you've been in broadcasting all your life, and actually, I'm sorry, you do know.
Yeah.
But I've always worked for the man one way or the other.
Yeah.
And MTV was actually the worst.
Yeah.
It was so restrictive. You couldn't, I remember one time I did an interview with TV Guide. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, Madonna. Yeah, I've interviewed her. It's not really the nicest person. I thought the sky was going to fall down, and she wasn't. She just wasn't the nicest person at the time.
Yeah.
Certainly not. So it was very restrictive. And now, if I say something that goes too far, I can only blame myself.
Right.
And you know what? And the producers will talk to me about it. And so, but it's not like some boss who is telling me what to do can hotline me and say, hey, don't do that ever again.
Yeah.
The freedom is unbelievable. And I find the responsibility that it brings along with it also really incredibly cool.
Nice. So big takeaways here are, first of all, you've got this freaking awesome. Again, I apologize for calling it a black box, but that's I go back a long way. And
we're gonna make it black just for you now. We're gonna make it black. Of course, we're gonna make smoked black glass. You
gotta
bet.
have it, man. You got that 1970s brushed aluminum look, But no, seriously, it's like I'm so excited to get my hands on one. And just again, for people who don't know the word, I forgot to decode it earlier. Zero latency just means you don't wait. Okay, it's like instantaneous, mouth in, audio out, down the pipe. People can hear you in real time.
And you'll hear exactly what your audience is going to hear. That's the way to do it. I feel bad. We messed up. We should have had that from the beginning. And people would, Audacity for years, post-processing. Good. It'll save people time.
Yeah, and money, and you're going to sound like a pro right out of the chute. Like, plug it in, push a button, and bam, you sound awesome. And let's face it, it's expensive, it's tedious, it takes a lot of hard work, and if you have to do things in post-processing and software, it takes a long time to learn how to do that, or it takes a long time to learn how to do it right and make it consistent. And,
and portability is...
And
portability in this case, I found that to be a very beautiful thing when you really can take your sound anywhere you go.
It's freaking awesome. I cannot wait to start playing with it.
You're at the top of the list, man. I'm pushing Gene and Charlie. I'm like, come on, man, where's the box?
Yeah, I want it. All right, so here's how we leave it. So don't go anywhere right now. I'm going to officially end this interview with you. But this is Adam Curry. Follow him at adamcurry.com and check out his show, The No Agenda Show. And definitely, I'll keep you posted as soon as I get word from Gene that I can send you somewhere so you can actually sign up, register, and get some pre-information, and then get involved in the Kickstarter project too. Because again, I have a little bit of inside information that I can't share with you, but this box is freaking amazing. If you've been listening to the way Adam sounds, you know how good he sounds. That's the way the box sounds too, because he's programming his own settings in there. So thank you, my friend. I really appreciate this.
No, thank you for the opportunity, and I promise a beer on me next time when I'm out there for the event.
Deal. All right, don't go anywhere. Here we go. Officially let Adam go.